Hello. Hello, hello. Okay, I see a lot of people connecting right now. Do you hear me well? Okay, hello. I'm today hosting this live. It's a very special live where we are talking about cultural intellectual property rights. And my name is Lucia. I am an artist, visual artist, and I am also the founder of Art Shapers, which is an initiative that promotes sustainable futures through art. So today, we are having a very special guest. Her name is Monica Moisin, who will be joining us in a bit, and we will be discussing some very interesting questions, but also we have space to discuss any question that you may have. So Monica, you're welcome. I cannot see Monica, but she might be here in a bit.
Hello,
Oh,
everyone.
sorry. I was wondering what I'm doing wrong. So welcome.
I think technology. Thank you very much for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Today we are discussing, as you know, one of your expertise that is cultural intellectual property rights. And I don't know if you could tell to the audience who you are, what is your initiative about, to know a bit more about the context and about you, of course.
Of course. So my name is Monica Moisin. I am the founder of the Cultural Intellectual Property Rights Initiative and the One Young World Ambassador since 2019. The Cultural Intellectual Property Rights Initiative is an organization that wants to design a legal protection system for traditional knowledge, traditional cultural expressions, and, let's say in a word, for craftsmanship and all this traditional know-how that we want to keep alive and transmit from generation to generation.
Amazing. When did you started this?
This started in 2018, officially on the 26th of April. So this year we are celebrating 4 years since we exist. And we chose this date, 26th of April, because at a global level, it's the day when we celebrate intellectual property. It's the World Intellectual Property Day. But we felt that communities are not represented in this intellectual property rights protection. So we wanted to mark this day and also include their rights as a celebration.
Perfect. This sounds great. So to get started, what are cultural intellectual property rights and why they are important?
Cultural intellectual property rights are a new type of right that is designed to protect artisans and, in general, traditional knowledge holders. So we can imagine, for example, people that work with wood, people that work with traditional jewelry, with traditional textiles, with plants, with different types of traditional medicine, And obviously even food recipes can be part of this traditional knowledge. They are very important because at the moment there is no international framework that protects this type of knowledge. So we don't have rights, let's say officially, like artists or designers, other creators have intellectual property rights. Intellectual property doesn't protect this type of creation.
Yeah, so there is a problem because if there is not like a legal framework, then the artisans, the artists, they expose, right, to get, for example, their IP stolen, right? So could you, for example, tell us an example of like someone or a group that got through this, that in the case when their cultural IP were stolen?
Yes, there are many cases, and you can hear a lot about them under this topic of cultural misappropriation, which is a very big topic, and it's a very sensitive topic because not everything is negative even in that space. So we have to be treating it, carefully. But a case that I was also involved with, and one of our members of the Cultural IP Rights Initiative is very involved with this case as well. In about 2 years ago, the fashion company Max Mara replicated a design of the Oma community, Oma ethnic group in Laos. Right? And it was an identical replica of the appliqué, the textiles, the traditional textiles of the Oma ethnic group. And together with the Traditional Arts and Ethnology Center in Laos, who is a member of our initiative, we created a model to teach fashion companies to not copy designs, but to work in partnership with the communities. So this is one of.
But how do you exactly like involve like the artisans, for example, in the case of Laos, with the fashion designers?
So we have a model, we call it the 3 C's rule. And this rule stands for consent. So there should be a process where we sit down at a table and we discuss what do we want to create, and is this use of the design appropriate for in the eyes of the community? Is this okay? Then we have credit, so referencing where we got the inspiration for, involving the community in the creative process. And the 3rd C is compensation. So creating a compensation scheme that is ethical, that we're not just talking about, fair wages. This is also a big topic and important. We're talking about truly compensating the value that this community brings in as a partner, as a co-creator. We believe that when the 3 C's are happening, they are we comply to the 3 C's, then we have really an equitable relationship.
Definitely. And for example, in this case, when we talk about like textile production, well, women are mainly involved. For example, in Latin America, they are the ones that are the responsible of like keeping alive all these traditions through the textile production. So would you say that this would also help to empower women and give better opportunities to them?
Absolutely. So you can imagine, once you have you treat someone with the same respect, like as a partner in a contract, they have rights. They have the possibility to say, this is what we agree with, this is what it's not imposed to them anymore. They are not exploited in a way, they are not looked from up to down, but as equals, on equal footing. And I think that's a very important thing. It's this work of recognizing the rights of indigenous people, ethnic groups, and local communities does benefit immensely women in these communities, because they, in many communities, they really have the know-how and the responsibility, and they feel responsible to pass on this knowledge to future generations. But when this knowledge is not valued, and it's so little compensated in the real life in terms of, you know, securing their livelihood and inspiring the young generations to find purpose beyond, you know, its cultural identity. And this is important, but it also has to sustain your livelihood to be able to be creative and develop and innovate in the craft as well. So when we are, you know, reaching that point of ensuring this economical balance and positive compensation, I think it would also alleviate out of poverty many cultural groups around the world.
Definitely. I agree with you totally. We have seen like many cases, and that's why cultural and intellectual property rights are so important. So would you say that cultural IP rights are covered under conventional IP law or not?
We think they are not covered under conventional IP law. We think the conventional IP tools like the trademarks, geographical indications, industrial designs, or trade dress, how they are referred to in different countries, they are not designed to support really the work of artisans and craft custodians. They have a different, they were born from the industrial, let's say, revolution, from the industrial perspective of creating more, and not necessarily of enabling the passing on of knowledge from generation to generation. So this is why we believe that we need a new system. We need to create a new system, and contemporary society is ready for this, because we need craftsmanship in our lives. We need the touch of hands, the human touch in what we wear, in how we, you know, what we have in our houses, how we eat. We need this. We need more humanity. And to be able to have that more humanity and more individuality and more cultural integration and diversity and accepting of the other, we need to rethink the legal tools as well.
Definitely. No, yeah, it's very important. And also, like, it's very it's very essential to recognize this traditional knowledge that is passed by our generations, and that sometimes it's like all over the place, but we don't really know where it comes from until like sometimes like a company like they make up like textiles with these patterns, and then, oh, where is this from? And then you get like, you know, confused. So it's really important to recognize where it comes from, and also to keep these cultural identity alive. You know, each of us have a cultural identity that is part of who we are, our spirit, where we belong. You know. So
beautifully said.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, sometimes we forget about it, but we all come from like cultural background that is very specific, and then we sometimes forget, like in the daily day, you know, you forget sometimes. But I see like cultural IP rights very important for this, also to remind us who we are, you know. So now the other question that we have for you is, what is the cultural IP month? Can you tell us a bit more to get us more
I'm very happy to tell you about the Cultural IP Month, because this is, let's say, the crown jewel of our work in the past 4 years, and it's the first time we dedicate an entire month to cultural IP rights. So from the beginning of April, from the 1st of April until the last day of April, we are organizing something every day, whether it is a panel session where you can meet members of the Cultural IP Rights Initiative. There can be a knowledge drop. This is how we call them. So we share information that is relevant to learn and get familiar to what cultural IP rights are and why are they important. We share tools that we created and that can be used by other people that work with crafts and craftsmanship, and different other gifts. So if you follow us on this page, Cultural Intellectual Property, you will see that every day there's a new resource for everyone who wants to be part of the movement. And the theme this year is cultural intellectual property rights are human rights, because it's a statement.
It's a statement, of course it's a statement, but what would you say about this specifically?
This is it's important for us to realize that human rights are understood maybe differently around the globe. So what to me means a decent human life and what is something valuable to me might be slightly different somewhere else in the world. And it's important to understand these differences. And it's important to understand that, yes, technology and innovation and the metaverse and all this is very relevant, and it's something that we cannot escape from. But there are artisans and communities around this world for whom their cultural identity and their know-how is so important. It's part of how life, a good, decent human life is to them. So those are their rights that we need to respect. And cultural IP rights are human rights. So there is a very big risk that communities around the world would disappear if they lose their language, if they lose their tradition, if they lose their know-how, if they lose their connection with nature, the environment, right? And the biocultural diversity that they try to protect and nurture, and that's their way of living. And cultural IP rights have a lot to do with this connection, ecosystemic connection with nature and with the world around us.
Perfect. Like, this is very interesting, and it's very important, as you said. And like, we have a few minutes left, but I would like to ask you, why is cultural sustainability important, and how we can make it possible? When we talk about that, what is it?
We are all, at least in the One Young World Network, right, we're so familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, and we work with them a lot in our activities, and these are narratives that we kind of align our actions to. What the goals don't speak directly about is cultural sustainability. Cultural sustainability, however, is at the basis of social, environmental, and economic sustainability. Why do I say that? Because cultures, the way they have sustained their life in different parts of the world, has been always so connected with the natural environment, so the biodiversity around. It has been like their cultural expressions are so connected with the world around them. And here we talk about everything, you know, from traditional textiles. Why did we use certain materials from certain regions? We talk about the way we produce food, and it's to sustain a culture and its values, its knowledge is basically added value for everyone around the world. So we can learn now with climate change from communities in hotter regions how to adapt our architecture to you know, to the new climatic changes. So basically it's a lot of know-how everywhere around the world that needs to be part of a system where everyone's rights are respected. Not that, you know, one part of the world is exploiting the other part of the world, or communities that are not so familiar with legal know-how and business frameworks. And when we do that, we would bring a certain balance, and we would work towards global well-being. And this is what we hope to do by advocating for this kind of rights.
Definitely. And now we have a question from the audience. The question is for you, Monica. It's like, in a bigger scale, what would you say about cultural appropriation related to gentrified towns in tropical areas?
I think the issue of cultural misappropriation is such a big and complex issue, and I would very much want to invite everyone to kind of follow our programs, because we do have also sessions when we speak specifically about this topic. I think there's a big risk, you know, to have such a short intervention in a live session would be in the detriment of the conversation. But the only thing I want to say is that we need to walk carefully on this issue. So misappropriation, how we understand it, is the unconsented access to an expression, a type of know-how, and the misuse of this. But when the community agrees, when we talk about cultural assimilation, you know, when there is a form of consent, when there is this kind of like new cultural syncretism, right? When cultures blend, and this is a phenomenon that happens in many places around the world, that happens in many families around the world that are multicultural families. And this is also an aspect that we need to take into consideration. So I cannot give, you know, a black or white example. It's always a gray area that we need to develop together.
Totally. Yeah, that happens a lot, right? I'm, for example, my family comes from Uruguay and Bolivia, and also Italy. So it's a mix of traditions, and yeah, so it's, as you said, it's a gray area. Like, sometimes you don't know where it comes, like, tradition from and all that. But yeah, we have to be very careful when we talk about appropriation regarding cultural goods. So I don't know if you would like to tell something more to the audience, to invite them to a specific activity. You already mentioned some, but maybe you have something more that you would like to highlight.
Yes, I would love to invite everyone on the 26th of April. We have our 4 years anniversary, and we organize a little get-together, online get-together on Zoom. On our website, there is a calendar of the events, and there's a free link that can be accessed there. We would love to have as many of you joining us on the day, on the 26th of April, for a short meet and greet, and really the possibility to ask us any questions. The core team of the Cultural Intellectual Property Rights Initiative will be there. It's a great chance to meet us. We are spread across 4 continents, but we are a very small team. So we are 4 people, 4 continents. And so it's
so exciting.
Yeah, we would love to meet you, as many as possible, and talk about these subjects in a relaxed, let's say, environment. So it's a Zoom event.
Perfect. And Monica, if anyone has a question for you, where they can send it to you?
They can definitely reach out to us via Instagram, or via our website, culturalintellectualproperty.com. Our email addresses are available there. They can also check Instagram and LinkedIn. Monica Moisin, always happy to address questions and get in contact.
Perfect. And just the really final question, in one word, how do you describe cultural intellectual property rights?
The golden rule for the future. I think it's more words, but I think cultural intellectual property rights means well-being for all of us in the future.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today in this live for One Young World. It was a pleasure to have you here and to listen about you and all your experience and all these insights about cultural intellectual property rights, that they are actually the present, but also the future, and every time they're becoming more and more important. well, they are really very important, but it's really necessary to pay more attention to them. And I think there's a lot that can be done, and really like positive change, if we work towards that, it's possible. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was lovely having you here.
Thank you so, so much for your energy and for the great way, of this interaction. I'm very happy that we met via One Young World, and I wish everyone a lovely start of the day, afternoon or evening, wherever in the world they are.
Okay, so see you till the next opportunity, and have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.